Welcome to the Imperial Truth. I'm your host, Eric, and today we are going to talk about the warriors of the Mechanicum. We're going to talk about all the infantry units that are available to the Mechanicum Taghmata Army List in Horus Heresy 3rd edition. I've been putting off the Cybernetica video because there's a lot more entries and a lot more to talk about. So we'll try and do that one next week. But with that said, let's talk about all of these different unit options and sort of what I think about them. Oops. There we go. So the first thing we have to talk about is this idea of Cybertheurgy, which is a core component of the Mechanicum army. We've talked about it in other videos, but basically it is sort of like Mechanicum's version of psychic powers. They can invoke a Cybertheurgic right onto a unit. I'll probably do a whole video on them at some point because there's a little bit of nuance there. But basically, you can give yourself one of three abilities. And the three abilities are Quicken, which gives, for infantry units, for the context of today, are going to give infantry units +1 movement and +1 initiative, which is sometimes very useful for Mechanicum units, which tend to struggle with our initiative scores. There is Fortify, which gives the unit +1 strength and +1 toughness, which again can be incredibly useful, especially if we're talking about something like Thanatar or Castellax, where these numbers can really push you over the limit. But even going from toughness 5 to toughness 6 in a lot of ways can be very handy. The strength bonus can also be useful, though maybe not so much as often, because what's it called? Instant death is gone. But if we're going up against a vehicle, getting +1 strength can be really useful. And guide gives us +1 to our weapon skill and +1 to our ballistic skill, which is always useful. I would say in the limited number of games that I've played at this point, because I haven't played in a few weeks, most of the time I'm using guide. Mechanicum is a very shooty army. We have a lot of ranged attacks, and so +1 ballistic skills is to just dump out on your units is very useful. So for today, we have three different Cybertheurgic powers that are going to come into play for the units that we're talking about. Fleshnet Protocols is the Lacrimata version. It's difficulty 2, and it gives you Quicken or Fortify. So you can't guide your Ursurax or your Tech-thrall units. You can only give them Quicken or Fortify, but as we'll see today, those are both completely reasonable for what we want to do. Deactivate limiters is the reductor version, so this applies, to my knowledge, only to Thallax. And this gives you any of the three. It is difficulty 3, so it's a little bit harder to invoke. And there's a reason for it that we'll get to a little bit later, but you can get any of the three powers here. And then Fury of Ages is for our Myrmidax units, difficulty 2, and we can only do Fortify or Guide. We can't do Quicken on them, which arguably, Quicken would be pretty useful on a unit of Myrmidons, making them +1 speed and getting them their initiative up a little bit. But it's not a huge detriment to not have Quicken on our Myrmidon units. So we'll start with our Ursurax units. We'll kind of just go through every unit entry. We'll talk about their stats, what I think is important to understand about them. Maybe get into their weapons a little bit to kind of discuss some things, and then give my thoughts on each one. So Ursurax are heavy assault choice. They are the Lacrimata faction. They're 25 points per model, and you have to take 6 to 9 of them, which is different than 2nd edition, where you could take 3, I think 3 to 12. Maybe. It was very versatile then. They are weapon skill 4, which puts them on par with the average Space Marine. I should pause real quick to talk about what these guys are in reality, because it's kind of fun. The lore is great, and it's worth noting. So we'll come back to the stats in a minute. So both Ursurax and Thallax are they are essentially warriors who have had their entire nervous system stripped out of their bodies. And so what you're seeing here is the nervous system implanted in essentially a cyborg body, which is horrifying and incredibly painful. I think it was mentioned in the lore earlier that the Mechanicum, the priests that do these surgeries don't tend to think about how much it might hurt someone. I had some root canals, and I just imagine this is like root canal pain, but for your entire body. Yeah, it's horrifying that the people that go through this are left scarred, physically and emotionally, obviously, like just absolutely ravaged by it. But yeah, and the Ursurax are there to hunt down. I believe they're hunting down the like enemies of the Mechanicum. So they're like not quite assassins, but like their job is to go in and like ace certain people. I mention this because weapon skill 4 is a little bit low, but it's fine. That, I mean, it's not optimal for a dedicated a melee unit, but it's workable. And yeah, perfectly reasonable. They are toughness 4 or toughness 5, sorry, which is good. Toughness 5 is great. They have 2 wounds, which is sufficient. It's good. Um, they can get fortify, so they could get +1 to their toughness and be toughness 6, which is good. Their initiative 3, and this is not a good stat. I'm putting it up here because it's a bad stat, and it's worth noting. They will always swing after Space Marines unless you put um, uh, um, fortified guide quicken on them, unless you put quicken on them. And quicken is not a bad thing. As you can see here, our movement plus initiative goes to 13 if we on base, which is a 4-inch setup move, which is great. And quicken bumps you up into a 5-inch setup move, which is also good. So I would, if I was running these, I'm almost always going to try and take a tech priest who can, or not a tech priest, a magos who can kind of babysit them a little bit and pop a quicken on them whenever they're going to go in and do their thing. They are cool 12, so they're very rarely going to fail our status checks. And they are 3+ save, which is good, with a 6+ invuln, which is also good. Overall, defensively, they're not super. I mean, they're not Terminators. They're going to go down to any dedicated shooting or melee. But hopefully you will take some of the enemy with you. They can take sorry, there are Vanguard 3, which means you'll get 3 points if you sweep an enemy off an objective. They're usually going to want to do it in melee. Vanguard can be a little tricky if your opponent knows what they're doing, because there's no reason for your opponent to just not sit back further and sort of let you come in on the objective and then movement react away. But if when you get it off, it's good. It's a good amount of points. They can take an alpha, which is essentially their sergeant model, gets the sergeant keyword, gives them +1 leadership and +2 willpower. And that's important because their willpower is base willpower 4, which is not great. But I would argue that going to willpower 6 isn't great either. It does move, as remember back when we talked about statistics in the game, going from a 4 to a 6 is a huge bump statistically, but it's also, you're still at like a 42% chance that you're going to fail your willpower check even at a 6. So I don't know that I'd really worry about that too much. They get a Volkite Incinerator, which is the gun in their chest. It's a Volkite gun. It's range 10. It's got assault. It's strength 5, which is fine. It's AP 6, which is not great. It's got Deflagrate, which is good. But really why you're taking these guys is because of their claws and their fists. So they get fists, which are not quite lightning claws, which give us hit at initiative, give us +3 attacks, which we're going to find out in a second is really big. They hit at strength. So if you're putting fortify on them, they're going to be strength 5, which is again not shabby at all. They are AP 3, which is great against Marines. These guys like to really bully your tactical Marines on objectives. Breaching 6+, which is fine, and they're power weapons. And then a pair of Ursurax fists are -2 the initiative, which if you're going to be initiative 3, you might as well be initiative 1. Like it's not really going to make a huge difference. I mean, I guess if you're going up against Terminators who are also initiative 1, you could try and hit before them. You just get your base attacks, which is 2 for these guys. Sorry, I'm looking at my book to make sure I'm not lying to you guys. +2 strength, which is fine, but not a power fist. And 2 damage with AP2, which is really stellar. And so in 3rd edition, the fist upgrade doesn't cost any money or any points. And you can take 6 fists if you want. So let's talk about the difference between our fists and our claws. So I ran some numbers, and feel free to check my math and correct me if I'm wrong. So versus our basic tactical marine, so we're assuming weapon skill 4, toughness 4, 1 wound, 3 up save. The claws, 6 guys with claws are going to kill about 7.5 marines. So, almost the whole squad, about 3/4 of the squad. And if we just have fists, that's only going to kill 5 marines. And the big difference here is because we're going from 5 attacks for each model with the claws to just 2 attacks for each model with the fists. So already claws are superior against these guys' primary prey target, which is going to be tactical marines or tactical marine equivalents on objectives. Versus Terminators, because Terminators are a problem for Mechanicum. We just don't have any guns that really effectively can take them off the board. So again, we're going to assume that these are Tartarus Terminators that were weapon skill 4, toughness 5. I don't know why I have toughness. I think I've been supposed to be initiative. I don't know what the other T4 is there. I'm sorry. 2 wounds, 5 up save with an 2 up save with a 5 up involved. So the Ursurax with claws on average are going to kill 1 Terminator at 2.1 wounds. And that's because those breaching 6 attacks do work, especially when you have 30 of them. The Ursurax with fists, wow, lots of typos today, guys. I'm sorry, I'm dropping my ball. I'll do better next time. They get 2.7 wounds through. So again, on average, about 1 Terminator dead. And this is where I think that it just kind of falls apart, right? For the fists, because the claws are going to be better into, and if you're not familiar with the terminology, MEQ is marine equivalent, TEQ is Terminator equivalent. So the claws are just better because they're all-round weapons. It doesn't matter, what you have, claws are going to kill enough of it. The only time you really want your fists is to go up into Cataphracti Terminators, where those numbers kind of fall off for the Ursars with claws, fall below that 1 guy dead threshold. Or if you're going to vehicles where that +2 strength is really important, so that takes them to strength 6 on the fists, which means that you can kill vehicles by meleeing into their back armor. And if you put Fortify on them, you'd be strength 7, which is not terrible going into vehicles. So thoughts on these guys? They're a really good Vanguard unit. I don't have a lot of complaints for them. I think they're a little bit expensive for what they do. And I'll talk about that in a second. I think claws are better than fists. I don't know how you would magnetize these guys. So if you're building them, I would probably put claws on them. I have 2 guys with fists that I converted for a league that I was in, and the idea was to make them like Zone Mortalis veterans. So I put fists with chain fist upgrades on them, which looks pretty cool. So I'll probably just run those as fists just for the sake of it. But yeah, it's not they're not great. It's not going to ruin the unit, but it's not the optimal build right now. I think Quicken is the best Cybertheurgic power to put on these guys. You get +1 movement, you get +1 inch for your setup move, you're going to get +1 initiative in combat. You'll be hitting at the same time as most Marine equivalent models. That's good. That's good. The last thing you want to do is have a unit of tactical Marines get lucky and kill an Ursurax in melee before they get to swing, because that's going to lower your output by quite a bit. So yeah. They are a mobile lethal Vanguard option, and I just think that they're a little pricey. So Space Marine Jump Infantry, I think, move 13 inches base, and have +1 initiative versus these guys, and still hit pretty hard. I just don't think for their points that they kind of justify exactly as strong as they are. If you are a Marine player, if you play Astartes, because I haven't checked and I'm not going to pause this to check right now, let me know what the Vanguard jump infantry. I'm sure there's some sort of equivalent unit that has they're probably Space Marine assault veterans or something like that. Just let me know what their price is per model, because I'm guessing it's not 25 points a model, or maybe it is, and they're roughly equivalent in points. But even if they are, I don't think these guys are worth 25 points. I think 20 points per model is probably reasonable for them, especially since you're going to have to pay the Tech Marine or Magos tax to bring upgrades for them. But yeah, they're fine for Mechanicum. They are one of our best, if not our best, melee unit. So there's that. All right, let's talk about Tech Thralls, the other Lacrimoda choice. So Tech Thralls are support choice for Lacrimoda. They're 10 points per model. You're locked in at 10 models to 40 models. They're weapon skill, ballistic skill 2. And remember that we cannot guide these guys. So they are locked in at weapon skill, ballistic skill 2. Their leadership, willpower, and intelligence are all at 4, which is just great. And their save is 6, which is phenomenal. So they'll basically never get an armor save ever. And yeah, that's just it's a stat line. It's a stat line. They're tough 5, which is good. With fortify, you can get them tough 6, which is fine. They're cool 12, which is great. They're not gonna get statused very easily, and they have a 6-up feel no pain, which is fine. It would be better if we got an armor save with that, but having a 6-up feel no pain is fine. They do have expendable 2, which means that your opponent deducts 2 points from anytime that they like Vanguard these guys or whatever. I think Vanguard gets affected by that. And they have this rule called Right of Pure Thought that we will talk about in a minute. They're locked in with a Laslock, which is an 18-inch gun with 1 shot each. Gets strength 4, AP 6, which doesn't mean anything 90% of the time, and then damage 1. It's fine. It's nothing to write home about. You're not bringing these guys to shoot. So yeah, let's talk about what they do, and then we'll kind of talk about them on the other side. If it sounds like I'm down on these guys, I am. Yeah, I have 40 of them, and I'm probably not going to paint them this edition either. All right, so Right of Pure Thoughts does a few things. I can't make reactions ever under any circumstances, and there's nothing that gets around this because these guys don't have automata, so a Cortex controller does not let them make reactions. It would be really cool if it did, though, right? Like your tech priest basically like links into these guys and makes them all shoot together. That would be pretty cool. It would give them a very like zombie necromancer flavor, which the models, I think, by the way, can we just acknowledge these models are phenomenal. They're great. I love all the weird zombie poses. And yeah, let's talk about the lore real quick. I'm going to do this better next time on the next one. These guys are essentially the basically lobotomized servitor-esque people who work on the factory line. So this is your workforce. And when the Taghmata gets called up, these guys they unscrew their servo arm or whatever's on their arm that makes them do their work, and they replace it with a gun, and then they swap their assemble Hondas punch card for a shoot people punch card. And yeah, that's them. They've got so much flavor. I really wish they were usable. So can't make reactions, cannot make volley fire. They're just too dumb for any of that. They can only hold, fallback, or consolidate if they're meleeed. Honestly, if they get into melee, it's over. So that doesn't really matter a whole lot, but they can do those things. They do not take leadership from shooting attacks. So they can be panicked. They can still get panicked on like flamer weapons, for example. But if they take 25% casualties, they don't take a leadership check for that. They just don't care. They're too dumb to understand that half quarter of their number died. They don't suffer combat resolution for models lost. So if you lose 10 guys out of the unit in combat, you take 0 combat resolution points for that. You're still gonna lose a lot of the time unless you have like a 40-man unit or 20-man unit that is gonna still have outnumber your opponent. You will still usually lose combat resolution. But yeah, you could potentially tar pit certain Space Marine units with these guys and hold them there for a turn or two, which in some cases is going to be useful. So, oops, sorry. Yeah, let's jump on to the next guys. So these are the Tech-thrall Defense Covenant, basically the same models, just a different weapon. So they have all the same rules. We won't go through them again. These guys have a Mitra lock, which is instead of range 18 is range 10. It shoots twice each time. It's strength 4, AP dash is fine. Is stun 0, which is actually not terrible. As assault, I don't know why it has assault. They can't make volley fire ever. But yeah, so that's that weapon on here. Now, thoughts on these guys. Oh my god. 10 points per model is so bad. Put it in perspective. If you're not familiar, a tactical marine is 10 points per model. A tactical marine, 10 points per model. A model that is faster, that has line, that has initiative 4, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, has a better gun, can do reactions, can do all of the things. Like, are you honestly going to look at me and tell me that like Rite of Pure Thought is worth that much point? No. So 20 tactical marines are going to kill 7 of these guys every single turn. Like, you're just going to get whittled around away even by bolter fire. It's you can bring them back if you bring a Lacrimata Magos or Tech Priest or whatever. But even a Lacrimata Arch Magos with a servo arm can at most bring back 5 a turn. And you can only do it once per turn. So I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. If you have ways that you use them, let me know. I won't say the forum that I saw it in, but somebody posted about that they were putting 3 cybertheurgic statuses on these guys and that they were so good with 3 cybertheurgic statuses on them. And I didn't reply because I try not to get in fights with people. But I was like, okay, you can't put 3 cybertheurgic statuses on them. It's impossible. You can only put 2. And let's say you have a unit of 40 guys, okay? During your turn, the start of your turn, when the cybertheurgic status falls off, they suffer cybertheurgic feedback, and they can only take an armor save against that. So of your 40 guys, what's that? 1 and 6 is 6. So let's say generously you are going to lose 32 of them to cybertheurgic feedback. That's terrible, right? You put a cybertheurgic status on these guys when you know that they're going to die anyway. And that it's just not going to do anything. So they also have this problem that Rite of Pure Thought, I think, pushes you towards big units, big tar pit units, because you don't want to. They're gonna get up on an objective and they're not going to be able to get shifted. And yes, you can charge them with your Vanguard unit, but your Vanguard unit probably isn't going to kill them all, and they're probably not going to run because they're not going to suffer the points in melee for losing guys. And so your Vanguard unit's going to get stuck in melee with my thralls for 1 or 2 turns out of a 4-turn game, and that's disastrous for you, right? And I like that idea. The problem is I'm not going to drop 400 points on a unit of 40 of these guys to do that. And let's be honest, you're going to need a unit of 40 to really successfully tar pit anything. I think 5 points per model, honestly, is probably reasonable for these guys. And the fact that they're double that is just insane. Like, just compare these guys to like Solar Auxilia, or even the what are they called? The militia guys, just a militia levy. In fact, we're going to do a video where we talk about all of the like new PDF armies that have come out and sort of how you can work Mechanicum into them, or how you can work them into Mechanicum. And I would argue that if you took the militia force that allows you to take basically tech thralls, it gives you guys Rite of Pure Thought, that is better than taking these units. I think that's better, hands down. The models are cheaper. You still get the right of pure thought. They have line. I think it's just a better option. And the other side of it is that expendable 2 pushes you for small units, right? That you can just put up on an objective and let them die. And again, I don't want to put a 100-point unit on an objective and let you blast it off and just be like, well, you didn't score very many points for it. Like, yeah, but I lost 100 points, right? And I can put 100 points in, 100 points. I'm looking at my book right now. 100 points is 2 Castellax. I would prefer 2 Castellax to 10 of these guys any day of the week. Yeah, they have no offensive output. They don't really tarp hit super well. They don't score very well. I'm just not seeing it. Again, if you guys have thoughts on them and you feel like they're really good, let me know. Because I'm willing to learn. And I'd love to put my guys on the table. I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I don't, not at 10 points a model. Not like I said, again, if I could for 200 points, I would drop 200 points for 40 of them all the time. Yeah, I would for 100 points and putting them in a Triaris and driving up the board and jumping them on 20 of them on an objective would do it in a heartbeat. But not 10 points a model. All right, with that said, let's jump up to our Thallax. So Thallax are also a support choice. They are our Reductor faction. They're 20 points a model, so they are pretty cheap, honestly. They have movement 10, which is going to be important because they have ranged weapons and they are mainly a ranged weapon unit. They are ballistic skill 4, toughness 5, wounds 2, all fine, all perfectly reasonable things. They like the Ursurax, they have cool 12, 3-up save, and a 6-up invuln. They can also take a sergeant model. They call it a Praetorian instead, which gives them +1 leadership, +2 willpower. Again, not terrible. The willpower move is not great. The leadership move is pretty good. They have a whole bunch of guns: lightning gun, photon thruster, multi-melta, and phase plasma fusel. They're all their options. And in this edition, you can take 6 of anything. So you can mix and match as you need. These guys look a lot like Ursurax, if you're kind of paying attention, and they look like Ursurax for a very good reason. They were stolen from the Ursurax. So much to the chagrin of the Lacrimotta people who designed the lovely neural flossing technique of pulling your nerves out of your body and putting them into cyborg. The Reductor stole that technology and used it to make their own cyborg soldiers that are our Thallax, which are essentially just Ursurax but with ranged weapons for all intents and purposes. They have a special rule called Aegis of Pain. So Aegis of Pain is pretty interesting. Basically, it says that if the unit contains only models with this rule and the Reductor trait, really important wording here, because it means if you put a Reductor of Magos in the unit, you don't get the trait because they don't have Aegis of Pain on the Magos. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be 4, and it's just a mistake. But yeah, that's not the way English is. So you need the trait and Reductor, which is funny because everybody with Aegis of Pain are Reductor units. So it's just again, we come back to this point of like, did they read? Did anybody who knows how to write rules actually read the Mechanicum Liber? Or is this just the draft version and they just ran out of time and they decided to put it up? Because that's really what it feels like. I mean, we didn't even talk about this time the Lacrimotta Omega Protocol's ability that literally just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So anyway, so you can't put a Magos in the unit, which is great because you really want to put a Magos unit in it, because if you put a Reductor Magos in the unit, then they get +1 strength against stationary vehicles. Yeah, so you're not going to do that. You're not going to put a Magos in the unit ever because you want Aegis of Pain. So if you have this ability and you give them a Cybertheurgic status, they gain Fear 1. So basically, they just scream. You turn off their limiters, and you make them hit better. And while they're doing that, they're literally screaming in pain because you're like running more power than needed through their bodies, and that makes people afraid of them, which is great. I love it. Fear 1 is the rule that they get. So that means enemy units within 12 inches subtract 1 from their leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence checks. And the real cool thing here, no pun intended, is that if you can get this off, that basically gives them greater power to put status effects on things. So these guys, they have some lethality to their guns. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I really think where they're going to shine is in this area where they are putting status effects on enemy units. So let's look at their guns. So you have 4 gun options. The lightning gun is what they come basic with, and does what it says on the tin. It shoots people with lightning. It's 18-inch range, 3 firepower, which is not bad. 3 shots per guy. It's great. Range strength of 5. Like it. You're going to be wounding Terminators on 2, or on 4. You don't really want to be shooting Terminators. You're going to be wounding Marines though on 3s, which is great. AP 5 is fine. That's just sort of like it's like a bolter there. Damage 1 is fine, but with Shred 6+ is okay. Again, you're probably going to be shooting these mostly at Marine equivalent units. So Shred 6+ is not a huge deal, but it might be important when it's there. The real cool thing here is that it has suppressive 0, which is very handy. Any sort of status effect we can get is good. And with suppressive 0, we could go to suppressive hang on, I'm going to check something because I think we had 2 weapons that did different things. So I'm going to check while we're looking. Nope, it's suppressive 0. So suppressive 0 is good. And then if we put fear on them, they would be suppressive 1 essentially. The photon thruster is very similar to this. So the photon thruster is a 15 point per model upgrade. So it's a bit of points for 20 point models. It's 24-inch range though. It's got firepower 2, range strength of 8, AP 2, so you can pop this guy into Terminators with no problem. It has damage 1, has armor bane and armor breaker, which is probably a trap. I don't know that I'd spend a lot of time shooting the photon thruster at anything other than maybe like rhinos. I think maybe shooting it into like a rhino's back arc would be pretty cool. But yeah, most of the time I would not be shooting these at vehicles. I'm going to pop them into enemy elite units is probably where I'm going, and then use my fear 1 and my suppressive 1 to try and put a status effect on a unit of Terminators. That's really where I think they're going to shine with this weapon. You have the multi-meltas, which just make me sad in 3rd edition. They're range 24, firepower 1, which sucks for trying to hit. It's range strength 8, AP 2, damage 3, which is fine. They have heavy range strength, so if you don't move, you go to range strength 9. So you could end up with this fun potential scenario where these guys stand still and you have a Magos in the unit, which means you lose Aegis of Pain, but whatever. And then you shoot a vehicle that's stationary. Now your multi-melters are strength 10. That seems okay. I don't think it's ever going to come up. But yeah, I guess it could. Oh, and you definitely want them to be within 8 inches so you can get your Melta 8. So you get your double damage and your armor bane. But yeah, I don't think it's usually going to happen. But you could. Yeah, I think the multi-meltas, we've said this before, multi-meltas are just not going to be good into anything that is not a rhino or a predator in this edition. You're just unless you can get into the rear or side armor, that strength 8 is just this is brutal. You have to get within 8 inches. Yeah, we'll talk about sort of how to build these guys in a minute. I'm not going to go down that road just yet. And then the last weapon, multi-melters are 15 points. And then your last weapon is your phased plasma fusel at 10 points per model, range 24, firepower 3, range strength 5, AP 3, breaching 5+, great gun, all around great gun, would not complain. yeah, I think that's a good build as well for this. So let's talk about this. Aegis of Pain means that you want to be within 12 inches of enemy units, but also 12 inches of a Cybertheurgist, but you can't put the Cybertheurgist in the unit. And your ranged weapons want to be 18 to 24 inches away because these guys don't want to get into melee. They're not good in melee. So they're a little tricky to use in that way. You can deep strike them, which is great, but you can only deep strike one unit per turn. So be careful with that because you can put a bunch of points into a unit and then not get them on the board. Yeah, it's a little tricky to kind of figure out where they are. And so I'm going to propose something here. I'm going to propose that there's basically 3 different loadouts that you could run with these guys. The multi-melta problem is that they want to be within 8 inches, but they also want to be stationary. And if you're running the multi-meltas with a Magos to get the +1 versus stationary vehicles and buildings and all that stuff, then you're not getting Aegis of Pain, right? So I think that there are 3 big builds for these. You run a unit of 6 with multi-meltas, and probably melta bombs, maybe. I don't know. They can take melta bombs. I don't know that it's really worth it. Can they take melta bombs in this edition? They can for 5 points a model. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that. But regardless, you take a unit of 6 with multi-meltas, you put them in deep strike, and you just very annoyingly drop them behind your enemy vindicator or something like that that they don't want to lose. That unit is gonna be let's see, 120 plus 90, 210 points before we put in any melta bombs. It's a lot of points to take out a vindicator, but it can, it can be effective if you apply it in the right spot, right? Or if you take out like a super heavy or something like that. Like they can do work against certain targets. Just don't drop them against a Land Raider. They're just not going to do anything against a Land Raider. So that's one build that you can do. I think the second build that you can do is lightning guns and photon thrusters, and try to get within 12 inches and try to put Aegis of Pain on them and just basically play them as a status effect a unit. Okay, so I'm just going to try and put suppressive on your units constantly with this unit, and they're just going to be really annoying because they're just going to be dropping status effects every single turn. That's fine. I think the third loadout that you could do is phase plasma fusels, because it's only 10 points per model. So a unit of 6 with phase plasma fusels is 180 points. That's completely reasonable. And then you just have them jump around the table. You're not going to worry about Aegis of Pain. You're not going to worry about putting cybertheurgic powers on them. They're gonna jump around and they're gonna shoot Marines all day long. And they're just gonna shoot guys off of objectives. I think that's probably reasonable, right? So, like lightning guns, or phase plasma fusels or multi-melters are probably all the optimal ones, right? Maybe pop in 1 or 2 photon thrusters into your lightning gun unit to put status effects on stuff. Or you could put 5 phase plasma fusels and 1 photon thruster in a unit and try and status effect a unit that you shoot. So you're going to shoot a unit, the phase plasma fusels are going to kill probably 25% of the models. So they're going to have to take a panic test on that and to see if they're routed. I guess that's shooting leadership test. So they might get the routed effect on that. And then with your 1 photon thruster, you could try to put another status effect, put suppressive on them, right? And in that case, I would probably try to use Aegis of Pain on them, and then you potentially are putting taking out a decent chunk of a unit, and then also putting 2 status effects on them, which means that it would be really hard for them to do anything the next turn. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna pause. No, that's not good because the moment you get routed, you lose all your other status effects. Yeah, I rescind that. I go back to my original statement. All multi-meltas, all lightning guns, or all phase plasma fusels, I think are the three good loadouts for them. But yeah, if you have a loadout for them, let me know. I have run them, and every single time I run them, I'm like, I would rather be running other units. I just don't think they're very good for what they do. If they had jump, shoot, jump like they did in second, that would be great. If they were a little faster, that'd be great. If they were a little bit more durable, that would be great. Any of those would be great. Having them be sort of none of the above is it's fine. They're perfectly fine. But if you're going to drop, let's say you're going to drop 180 points on these guys to take out Space Marines, why wouldn't you just bring a Krios battle tank with a lightning cannon, which is going to probably do more work in a turn? That's the sort of problem that you're gonna run into. At least these guys can score though, so I guess that's not bad. All right, next we have our Myrmidon Secutor host. So Myrmidons are basically tech priests who have devoted themselves to the art of war and to modifying their bodies to be maximally effective at warfare. Myrmidon Secutors are a combination of like close assault and melee versions of these guys. They're an elite choice. They are the Myrmidax faction. They're 45 points a model, and you can bring 3 to 10. I really want to bring a unit of 10 sometime. That'd be hilarious. But they are super expensive. They are super pricey for what they do. They are weapon skill, ballistic skill 4, which is amazing. And they have a Secutor in the unit who's like the leader. And that model is weapon skill, ballistic skill 5. We'll get back to that in a minute. They are toughness 5, which is phenomenal. And they have 4 wounds each, which is phenomenal. They're cool 9, but they're heavies, which means they're essentially cool 10, which is great. They have a 3-up save, which is fine. I feel like they should have a 2-up save. I understand that they don't want them to make them 4 wound terminators. But yeah, so 3-up save and a 5-up invuln, totally okay. Not complaining about that at all. They have the implacable advanced rule, which means that they can use anything that's not a heavy or ordnance weapon as if it's an assault weapon. And to my knowledge, they don't have any heavy or ordnance weapons. So anything that you put on them is going to be an assault weapon. They have Vanguard 3 on a unit that has great shooting. This is so good. So good. And they have the battle meditation rule, which essentially says that if you're in a combat, if you're in a challenge, and your opponent's, the opposing model's weapon skills equal to yours, or equal, I guess, or less, you get a 6-up feel no pain, which is great. And if their weapon skill is above yours, then you get a 5-up feel no pain, which is even better, which is good. It's really good. Their 3 weapons are twin maxima bolters. We'll talk about all of these in a minute. Twin phase plasma fusils, which are great. And twin graviton guns, which is also a really cool weapon choice. So let's talk about their weapons. And I think we're going to talk about their challenge rule first. Oh no, we're going to do weapons, then we'll talk about challenges. Yeah, this makes more sense. All right, so your 3 weapon options are your twin maximum bolters, and that's what you come with out of the box, and that's fine. They are 18-inch range, 5 firepower, which is impressive to be honest. Range strength 4, so just like a regular bolter. AB4 like a regular bolter. Damage 1 like a regular bolter. They have shred 6+, which is fine, and assault, which is absolutely worthless on them because you already have assault. But okay. This is fine. They are free. So I guess if you wanted to bring these guys cheaply, question mark, or have maybe an ablative wound guy, that would be fine. In addition, you can take phase plasma fusils. Phase plasma fusils are going to run you 20 points per model. So they are, sorry, twin phase plasma fusils, very important there. They are very expensive, but oh my gosh, are they worth it? So 24-inch range, so shooting for days. They are firepower 4, so you're getting 4 shots every single time you shoot this for each guy. They are range strength 5, so wounding regular Marines on 3s, wounding Terminators on 4s. They are AP 3, which again eviscerates tactical armor, regular marine armor, and then damage 1. They're breaching 4 up, which means that if you roll a 4 up on your to wound, they go to AP 2, which is also fantastic. Yeah, this is really good. This is really good. Not gonna lie. This is usually what I put on mine is the phase plasma fusils because they're so good. The twin graviton guns are also very good. So they're only range 18. They are firepower 1. Range strength 6, though, which is pretty good. AP 4, not great. But the big thing here is that they are blast 5 inches, breaching 6 plus, shock pinned, and pinning 1. So this is a status effect option that you can put on this unit. So basically, if you move up and you're going to try and charge something, you have an opportunity to put a pinning 1 on them with the with your volley fire. And also, it doesn't matter that you're going to be snap shooting because with a 5-inch blast, you're still going to hit something. So you're going to do something, you'll probably get a wound through. Even if they save, they still take the pinning test. And if they fail the pinning test, and you'll have two opportunities to do this, right? Because you're going to move up and shoot during the shooting phase, then you're going to do your very, very itty bitty little baby setup move because you're heavy. And then you're going to shoot again and try and put a status effect on them. And if they're status effect, then they hit initiative 1, which is really important because your axes, I think also hit it initiative 1. Your initiative, yeah, I don't even have to look it up. Your initiative 2 on these guys. So you definitely want to make your opponent initiative 1. Of these, phase plasma fusils all day, and I will usually put 1 dude in the unit that has graviton guns just to try and status effect somebody. The other thing of note with this unit is that they have this great gambit that is called the Myrmidon's Path. And basically it works like this. You do the gambit, you do all your stuff, you roll 2 dice, and you drop the highest for your initiative. But it does not matter because 1, you're never going to outnumber your opponent with the unit of these guys, or not outnumber. You're never going to have 5 of these guys, or very rarely going to have 5 of these guys in the unit. It would be great if you did, but very rarely you're going to have 5. So you're not going to get that bonus. Your initiative 1, you're going to strike last. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter because what happens in the Myrmidon's Path is you get to make a shooting attack, not a snap fire shooting, not a volley fire, an actual genuine shooting attack with 1 weapon that you have before anybody makes a strike. Which is amazing. So let's say you put the guide Cybertheurgic power on your Myrmidon Secutor Lord, or on your unit. The Myrmidon Secutor Lord now is ballistic skill 6, which means you now have critical hits on your weapons, which is great. So if we are fighting somebody with a Master Sergeant ability, that's 3 damage in shooting before we do anything else. Before anybody takes a swing, you're just going to blast that Master Sergeant off the table. That's good. That's really good. If you face somebody in Tartarus armor, like a Centurion or someone, like a real actual challenge, on average, you're going to do about 1.8 damage to that model before they get to swing. And keep in mind that the damage that you take affects your future rounds in terms of your initiative. So you could start to whittle away at their initiative as well on this. If you shoot someone with Cataphracti armor with the 4-up in bond, that's only 1.3 damage. But again, like if we're talking about comparisons, you're going up against, let's say, a Centurion, right? Because you don't really want to go up against a Praetor champion with these guys. But let's say you're going up against a Centurion. You shoot, you're going to do a damage, maybe 2 if you get really lucky, but you're going to do a damage probably against them before anybody swings. They're going to swing against you, and yes, their weapon is probably going to be AP 2, but you have a 5-up invuln, and you have a feel no pain, okay? You're going to be a weapon skill 6, so they're probably hitting you on 4s, and you could be toughness 6 if you wanted to, but you're definitely toughness 5. No, you can't, sorry. Yes, you could be toughness a 6. But you're definitely toughness 5. So, they're probably wounding you on 3s or 4s, right? So chances are between your feel no pain and your invuln and your high toughness and the fact that you have 4 wounds, they're probably not going to kill you in a round, right? So you shoot them, you do damage to them, and then they swing against you and do a couple damage. You swing against them and do a couple damage. Now, second round of combat happens. You're going to shoot them again, and you might just kill them on the shooting alone, right? And even if you don't, chances are they're still not going to kill you on your, statistically, on with their second round of attacks, unless they're, unless there's some champion or like crazy praetor model or something like that. Most centurions are going to really struggle to kill even a secular lord, which is great. I think that's phenomenal. It's very fun. It's very flavorful. This huge hulking Mechanicum a priest that's more machine than human at this point. And you've got this, Space Marine going up against them, and just every single time the Space Marine tries to swing, the Myrmidon's guns swing around and shoot him before he gets to do anything. I love it. It's so great. All right, so let's put our thoughts on. Obviously, hopefully it's clear. I love these guys. These are great. They are a durable and lethal Vanguard unit. They have ranged attacks in Vanguard, which is phenomenal because what it means is that you can shoot units off of objectives and they won't get the opportunity to move away. And with phased plasma fusils, you can do a lot of damage against a unit of tactical Marines. So if you soften them up just a little bit with the right weapon, these guys can very easily come in and sweep the rest of them off the objective. They really want to bully line units. So they want to bully things with a 3-up save that are line. They don't want to melee against elites. You don't want to put these guys into really good elite infantry because they're going to get hosed. That initiative 1 is really rough, and like you're usually only weapon skill 4, but I guess if you guided, you'd be weapon skill 5 against. I'm pretty sure that the veteran Space Marines, at least the ones that are built for melee, are weapon skill 5 as well. So they're still hitting you in 4s. I wouldn't do it. I think it's a trap. You could use them to tar pit a little bit, but at 65 points a model after the phase plasma fusils, they're pretty expensive. I always go with phase plasma fusils and sometimes pop in that graviton gun if I can put it in there. Never on the Secutor Lord, because if you have a template or a blast weapon, they don't get to do the gambit. But yeah, you could just have one guy with graviton guns and just be there to put status effects on them if you want. Very good unit. Definitely recommend. The other Myrmidon unit, the Myrmidon Destructors, not as great of a unit. So these are also priests that are sort of devoted to destroying things and kind of giving into the excesses of the warfare as a vector for the machine god. They're also an elite choice. They're also Myrmidax. They're also 45 points. They have all the same stats. But what I want to point out here is that their weapons are very different. So while overall the stats are the same and they get implacable advance and all that stuff, they get a shock charger, which is their claw that they can fight with, which is not on the list because it's literally not worth mentioning. Shock chargers are terrible weapons. You can take a Volkite Culverin, which is fine, an irradiation engine, which is again fine, a dark fire cannon, which is good. We're talking about that one, and a conversion beamer, which I don't know, guys. We got the draft version of the rules. I don't know. So let's talk about the ranged weapons. So Volkite Culverin is range 45, 3 shots each, strength 6, all great stats. Like all Volkites, it doesn't have a high AP or low AP, I guess. It's got heavy firepower. So if you stand still, you get 4 shots each. seems pretty good. This is their standard weapon too, so you could run these guys pretty cheap with just Volkites and stand back on one of your objectives and score a point every turn, or just put them anywhere because they have Vanguard. So maybe you don't want to put them on an objective, and just be like, they're not going to move and they're just going to shoot your units all the time. With 4 shots each, they're going to do some damage. They're going to kill some models. The irradiation engine is interesting because these guys aren't fast. They don't want to sort of move across the table generally. So if you give them all irradiation engines at, let's see, that is 15 points a model, which seems expensive to me. It is a template weapon. It is strength 4, which doesn't really matter because it's poison 2. It has heavy AP, so you don't want to move your template weapon. I don't know. That doesn't seem great to me. Phage toughness and panic 1. Uh, it's fine-ish. I guess if they're taking a charge, you could phage toughness your opponent, which is good, and then you would get your heavy AP, which is good. Not seeing it. 15 points a model, go with the Volkite Culverin. It makes a lot more sense. The Darkfire cannons are great. 36-inch range. They are firepower 2, range strength 8, AP 2, heavy D. So if you stand still, you get an extra damage. And suppressive 2. Give them dark fire cannons, sit them back, and wait for your opponent to get their Terminators out of their transports and start putting these into Terminator models. I think that's solid. I don't have any problem with that. It is a little expensive at 20 points a model, but again, like it's fine. Suppressive 2, like if you hit a Terminator unit and kill 2 or 3 models out of a unit in a turn, which is reasonable if you're standing still with your heavy D, and then they fail that test and are suppressed. That's going to be a good swing. I like that. Last but not least is the conversion beamer, and come at me in the comments, but I'm gonna make the argument that the conversion beamer is a typo. So in every other version of the conversion beamer that I've ever seen in my 30 years playing this game, versions of this game, every single conversion beamer has 3 ranges on it. And this one does not. And keep in mind, it's 15 points, right? So it's not a cheap option. Let's go through this. If you are closer than 15 inches away, it is firepower 1, range strength 5, which is not great, AP 4, which is very sad, and range strength, heavy range strength. So if you stand still at 15 inches, you go to strength 6, I guess. It's 3-inch blast, which is pretty standard for our conversion beamers. The 15 to 30-inch range is, again, firepower 1, heavy range strength 6, so it goes to 7 if you stand still. AP 3, which is pretty good, especially on a 3-inch blast, and 2 damage, which is fine. The AP 3, 2 damage doesn't always work together. It can sometimes, but it doesn't always work together. But it really seems like there should be a 31 to 45-inch range in here, like there was in second edition, with another profile on it. In fact, the Morax conversion beamer has three of them. The Space Marine conversion beamers have 3 profiles. I don't know, guys. What do you say? Put it in the comments. Did we get the draft version of our rules? Because it seems like we got the draft version of our rules. Thoughts on the Destructors? I just don't know. I don't know. 45 points a model. I'd rather have Secutors all the time. I feel like they want to sit back at the back edge of the board and shoot at things off objectives, which is a really fun MO for these guys, but doesn't seem like they have the output for it. I would really like it if we could switch both their arms for guns. I think that would be really cool. I take twin of Volkites. That would be kind of fun. Yeah, they dark fire cannons are fine if you're gonna sit back and shoot at things, but yeah, I don't know. Secutors are just better at melee and ranged. They're just better overall. The only thing that Secutors struggle against is shooting Terminators. These guys shoot Terminators. But yeah, it's yeah, I think Castellax are an equal or better value. So we'll talk about Castellax later. The Castellax are 50 points a model. So Castellax Destructors are 50 points a model. They can take dark fire cannons also for 15 points a model. So you're already 5 points a model more expensive than the Myrmidons. Now, granted, they shoot worse. They are ballistic skill 3, but you can give them ballistic skill 4. Yeah, I think that they are potentially the better of the two options when it comes to kind of sitting back on objectives and shooting things. They're at least equal value, right? Like it's they're pretty even. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. So let's put some final thoughts into all of this. A lot of our infantry options aren't great. Let's be honest. Tech-thralls, yeah, whatever. Thallax are fine. Myrmidons or Destructors are good, I guess, good-ish. I don't know. They're none of them make me want to go out and buy new models. The ones that do make me want to go buy models are Ursurax and Myrmidon Secutors. So Ursurax are really good on their own, doing their own thing, but you know what else? They have a really good apex attachment. The Myrmidon, the Ursurax apex attachment gives you. I'm gonna look it up so I get it right. Trying to be better about bringing my book with me and paying attention to stuff. That's the Milagro one. That's not good. All right. So the Lacrimata apex attachment that you can take gives them all prime advantage slots. However, all the prime advantage slots have to. They have to. Reading. Sorry. Heavy slots in this attachment may only be used to select Ursurax cohort units. Prime specimens can only. Okay. It does not seem like you have to do prime specimens, but you can do prime specimens, and you would do prime specimens, because prime specimens gives you +2 strength and +1 wound on your Ursurax, which is phenomenal. Going to 3 wounds a piece on those guys for no points cost, and picking up +2 strength on your claws is fantastic. That math that we already saw that pushes the claws to be better goes sort of over the top when we go to strength 6 for our claws. So yeah, I think Ursurax are great. I think that there's an argument to be made if you want to run 3 units of them in the apex attachment, you should do it, and that would be fun, and you would have a lot of fun kind of pushing people, bullying people off of objectives with them. They're still kind of expensive, but they're good. Myrmidon Secutors are just great. I will probably at some point get some more 3D printed Myrmidons and paint them up once I finish my other ones. And yeah, I'll probably run the Myrmidon detachment, which it gives you 3 Myrmidon spots, and one of them is a what's it called? Is a prime slot. So I would probably do that and really enjoy that. It's to the point where it might be a little bit strong if you run like 3 units of 5 Myrmidons or 3 units of 4 Myrmidons. That's just a lot of shooting. It's a lot of vanguard. Your opponent's really going to have a hard time keeping line on objectives and not just getting shot off every time they put something on there. So yeah, those are my thoughts. We'll come back and I guess next week and try and do one on all the different automata units and talk about all the things with that. It is, I do think it is really, though, 3rd edition is automaton vehicles for us. Our infantry units are fine. They're just it's like I said, the pricing is a little off on some of these things. Anyway, If you disagree with me or if you agree with me, let me know in the comments. And like and share if you've enjoyed this, and subscribe if you want to. We've had 2,000 viewers on one of the the videos, but don't have 2,000 subscribers. So if you're one of those people that have been watching but haven't subscribed, subscribe. I'm gonna keep trying to make content. And yeah, say prayer to the machine god, burn some incense to the Messiah, and leave a comment and get into the discussion. And I appreciate you listening. Thanks very much. Bye.